We got a lot to cover today because the top 100 update is out, and literally every second it feels like another trade is starting to go down here as the deadline is heating up. So we're going to start with a couple trades, a couple prospect packages, and then we're going to talk about the biggest risers in the top 100 and the teams that are most loaded. You got Aram and Elijah Evans. Elijah, it's interesting timing because when we record right at the like flex point of the deadline, I know that by the time this episode is out, there's going to be more trades out. But the vast majority of this episode is going to be about the top 100 update, which is linked in the episode description and on justbaseball.com.
Yeah, as always, man, you crushed it with the top 100. It was fun kind of seeing where all the movement is, and that's one of the things I think we both enjoy a ton at this time with the updates is the risers, the newcomers, and just seeing kind of what all that looks like. We're gonna do risers today. You and Jack are gonna do newcomers later in the week, so those are kind of the two starting points to really just gauge the movement within the top 100. And I think that's kind of the best part about the top 100 is the guys coming in and the guys moving significantly on the list.
Especially post draft. That's the hardest part, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like where the heck these draft guys land. So that, of course, will be on the newcomers episode. But honestly, like there was a lot of movement even regardless of that. And you had some players that are trending upwards that we're going to talk about that maybe didn't even do as much over the last couple months as maybe the leap would imply. But a lot of it was just kind of digging into more info and finding more things. Like when we were at the futures game and we talked about Carter Jensen's BP, right? Where like if you were just looking at the chop house and it was Las Montes and Carter Jensen going back and forth in BP. If you were just looking at the chop house, meaning where the balls were landing in right field, just beyond the wall, well beyond the wall, I should say, you wouldn't know when Las Montes was up or when Carter Jensen was up. Like that's how insane the raw power is from like a 6'1", 190, 200-pound kid in Carter Jensen. So that I always knew the EVs were there, but that kind of prompted me to dig deeper and deeper and like, where has it been trending? And just focusing on that front, he's got an average exit velocity of 93 miles per hour this year. Like that would be top 20 in the big leagues. And I know he's not facing big league competition, but he's not facing low A competition. He's in trips. 93 mile per hour average exit velocity is ridiculous. But I just was kind of put to dig deeper into that and realize that wow, he's putting up some of the better EVs in the upper minors. So just little things like that, digging a little bit deeper on some players' defense as well. Jensen's defense has come along. That's something that usually is a little bit more of a process to look into. So things like that were really fun in the process where you can only get so much information and so much time on 100 players. So, and it's really more than that. And so digging into some of these other players was pretty fun. But we've got trades to start with. And
Yeah.
a very surprising intra-division trade with Ke'Bryan
Yeah.
Hayes heading over to the Reds for Sam Stafora and Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers. I'll mix
Yeah.
those guys up, unfortunately, for the rest of my life.
That's
But
how it goes.
I I don't know how to feel about the big league side of it. I guess it's worth a shot to take. Um, Change of scenery candidate. If you can't hit in Great American Ballpark, that might be your last shot. But he's also under control for a long time and getting paid. But it's affordable for a long time. We're here to talk about the prospect side, and I'm not the huge like the biggest Sam Stafora guy in the world, but for an intra division trade, you're still getting a speed and power upside guy who did check in preseason number 9 in the red
Yeah.
system for us. It's not a bad get, for the Pirates. I think here, who again, I think they're stockpiling those athletic shortstops up the middle.
Yeah, I feel like it's still a pretty decent, return there for from the Pirates' perspective. I assume they're going to try to reflip Taylor Rogers here. Like I would think so. I don't know why you're acquiring a veteran reliever there unless you're going to flip him again. So I think like if you're going to flip Rogers again, you get another flyer for him in addition to Stafora. If the Pirates see O'Brien and they say, "Hey, this guy's a great defensive player, but he's not. It just he needs a change of scenery. He's not hitting here. We're going to move on. We're going to find a new long-term piece at third base." It's a solid prospect to get back. And I think from the Reds, though, it's not one of your key prospects. So you're taking the chance that O'Brien will tap into some of that upside and can solidify third base potentially, while getting rid of someone that really isn't going to harm your farm system too
Well,
much there.
and you just drafted Steele Hall, and like they continue to
Yeah.
attack these hyper athletic shortstops, and I think Steele Hall is Stafora with the sliders turned up, right? So you're going to have the question of the hit tool and some progress that'll need to be had there, but you have a more exciting version of that on the way. And I mean, Stafora is still in low A. He's 20 years old. He's going to be 21 at the end of the season. So it's not. I'm not saying it from a lens of like, man, what is he still doing there? But Steele Hall's going to be there pretty quickly. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of it as well. And they'd be kind of eating into each other's reps because Tafur is a guy that, for him to be most valuable, it's going to be him playing an above average shortstop. So the thing with Stafora that's been solid this year, I mean, he's cut down the K rate a little bit. You've seen him control his ABs really well, extremely patient. I think that's an encouraging aspect of things. The EVs haven't totally been there, but he's flashed some exciting power. So I think at that side of it too, you're hoping you can tap into a little bit more. He's a project, but it's been a decent year, and you're getting out from money that you probably didn't want to pay Brian Hayes. It clearly just wasn't going to happen in Pittsburgh anyways. And not that the Pirates need to clear money. Hopefully they reinvest it, but to dump the money and to get a decent prospect back, I don't think is bad. But on the same side, the Reds, I mean, you've got a better version of this on the way.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it seemed like a fairly logical deal from each side, although surprising, right? It wasn't something we necessarily thought was going to happen, but I do get the logic, I think, from both angles, and the Pirates can see what they get from Sephora moving forward and just add him into a staple of young athletic hitters, right?
Yeah, just keep getting hitters involved
Yeah,
in there, and
just
and
hitters that can be something, right?
all of a sudden, I mean, they've got some guys. So the other trade,
Yeah,
now I'm blanking. Oh yeah,
it's the
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 Mets.
Mets, yeah.
And people are kind of, I think people are kind of freaking out about, because on paper it's a pretty significant return because it's names that we've heard a lot about. You have Tyler Rogers, who has a 1.8 ERA, by the way. I did not know it
He's
was
been
that good.
gross. He's been gross. Yeah,
He heads over. He's expiring. He's a rental. He heads over to the
right.
Mets. The Mets trade Drew Gilbert, Blade Tidwell, and Jose Budo. We don't need to talk about Jose Budo, who's
Yeah.
the middle reliever, is kind of taking a step back ish this year. But you can definitely get outs for your gum multi-inning, whatever it may be. I think people were surprised because Drew Gilbert's a name that you've heard a lot about, obviously being first round guy and in and out of top 100 lists. And then Blade Tidwell has always been that exciting, stuffy arm that I think people were always dreaming on, especially Mets fans. But and then you see the stuff plus models loving his arsenal and whatever it may be. But both those guys, Gilbert's going to need to be added to the 40 man after this year. Tidwell's already on the 40. And the way that Stearns spawns arms, I think he's fine moving at Tidwell. But I think the priority here was clearing up the 40 man space because I don't think they're done. It's a great get for the Giants where you're getting, a high probability, at least fourth outfielder in Drew Gilbert. And I think you can dream on an everyday outfielder as well. But at least he's a fourth or a bulk platoon guy. And then I think the fallback with Tidwell, he's a reliever, but you hope that he can develop into maybe a back end starter. He does throw hard and he does have a great sweeper and has flashed pretty good stuff. I think though for the Mets, as steep as it looks, they're thrilled to hold on to their ridiculous amount of high upside guys and high A, double A, et cetera. And dude, Carson Benge looks like he's going to be ready for triple A soon too at
We've
his
got
age.
multiple Mets guys already on the list we're talking about today in terms of biggest risers, right? So they're in a really good spot there. We're going to talk about the Mets a couple times today because they're also in the group of, farm systems that are doing just the best overall right now. So I think for them, like you mentioned this earlier too to me, like if you can not get rid of your key guys, you're clearing 40 man spaces eventually for a team that's clearly in push to contend mode, right? The Mets are not trying to stockpile assets right now. They're trying to win a World Series. So you've got two guys that you're moving off of that aren't necessarily going to even be key pieces on your roster anytime soon, given the other depth in the system and the depth already on the roster, right? So you're getting rid of two pieces that are somewhat inconsequential to your future and getting a guy that really solidifies a bullpen that has been very up and down this season.
Yeah. Well, and I think the Gilbert side of it is interesting because he definitely is an up arrow, but
Yeah.
he's 25 years old. So you'd hope that he's going to be 25 in 2 months. You'd hope that it was an up arrow this year, right? Like
Yeah.
he's been banged up the last couple years. You would hope it comes together enough, and it has. The EVs are up. The bat to ball has been a little bit better, though it doesn't show in the batting average. The contact rates are solid, but the reality is he's never going to face lefties, at least unless something drastically changes. He's just never been good against them. He's hitting 167 against them. So you have a bulk platoon guy, but maybe he could really be successful enough in the bulk platoon to carve out a pretty consistent role, and playing all four outfield spots is great, or all three outfield spots is great, excuse me. But I do feel like you look at some of these other up and comers in this system, especially the arms. They've got
Yeah.
some nasty arms coming up, and I think you'd rather guys that you don't have to add to the 40 for a couple years here. I think you'd rather move a soon to be 25-year-old and an arm that just it doesn't look like it's going to come together. Like his command has probably been as good as it's been, Blade Tidwell's, and he's still not missing bats really as much as you'd expect with any pitch other than the sweeper. So for the Giants side, you traded a couple months of a reliever, and you got a guy that could plug into your outfield tomorrow and at least be average out there. And I think he has a chance to be above average with the way he's air pulling right now. And then you get a guy that at least is going to be a reliever for you. So I love it for the Giants, but I had to play the other side more because I think the immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, we gave up all this.
Yeah.
Well, the Mets cleared up 3 40-man spot for the offseason, potentially, and 2 for right now. And I think that was the priority while holding on to your high upside guys.
And ultimately they got a player that is going to be a big part of their roster the rest of the season and their playoff push, which is more important than two pieces that could be depth guys for you down the line for a team that's trying to win the World Series, right?
Well, 100%. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the biggest part. And I mean, you don't get a chance to get 1.8 ERA relievers, even if they're rentals.
No.
For realistically, they didn't give up a top 100 prospect. Like
Nowhere near a top
that's
100, right?
important.
Probably. I mean, yeah,
Like Gilbert's, might be near there, but again, 25 years old. I don't think he's that close. So
yeah.
I think it was a good move for both sides.
Yeah, I think both these deals make a lot of sense each way.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some biggest risers. So typically when we do biggest risers, for your top 100, I keep it to rising 20 or more spots. And most of the guys we're going to talk about are going to be guys that jumped at least 20 spots. The first two names, though, jumped, 16 and 18 spots respectively. And that was, number 2 and number 3 overall prospects in Konnor Griffin and Jacob Misiorowski. So I figured, they're not quite in that 20 spots, but they do deserve a mention here as the biggest risers because these are two guys who went from that tier 1B to the best prospects in baseball type of category, right? And that jump, even though it's not a massive jump like some others, it's still a very clearly noticeable jump.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only so much you can climb up when you're near the top, too, right? So,
Exactly.
like, usually the biggest risers are always going to be the guys that were in the back end of the top 100 and then
Yep.
moved up to the middle or whatever. So when you're moving from the middle to the top or from the top third all the way to the
Yeah.
top, that's always going to be pretty significant. But we got some like facetious replies, which I understand, which is like, oh, Misiorowski, he's a great prospect. He could probably be an all-star one day, and I get it, it's tough, but he's very much a prospect, and we have pretty like strict graduating standards. Like we
Yeah.
we graduate guys way earlier than everybody else, and just because I want to keep this list fresh, but he's not even close to graduating compared to most other standards. So had to put him up there pretty high, and I just think with everything that he's doing, it's been really exciting. And Konnor Griffin being the number 2 prospect in baseball, I think if you told me you have him at number 1, I could totally understand that. But still decent sized climb because in the time that we last talked about him and or not last talked about, but the time we last ranked, the top 100 and updated it early June. Since then, he's climbed a level. He has continued to match at that level. He's continued to play elite defense at multiple spots. And I mean, it's just become abundantly clear that this guy is as high of a ceiling as anybody in minor league baseball. And every level that he climbs and, every stretch where he's cutting down that swing and miss, you're seeing that, floor that was relatively low, because he's a prep toolsy, questionable hit tool guy. You're seeing that floor just start to solidify a little bit more. And, the further we've gotten away from the first month of the season, the lower that whiff rate has gone. And all of a sudden the strikeout rate is at
And,
20.8% for this guy.
uh,
So, I mean, and if you go to the last 50 games, Konnor Griffin's punching 16% of the time. And that's
yeah.
not coming with compromised impact either. It's a 90th percentile of 109. He's hitting 349 in that span. And so if this guy's not
So
punching, like, good luck trying to poke a hole in his game. Again, I
yeah.
could hear the case for him being number 1. He looks like a superstar in the making.
Yeah, 100%. And just some more numbers to add into what you just got at there, right? Like since jumping to high A, and that was about similar timing to the last top 100, since getting to high A, the strikeout rate's at 17%. The walk rate's gone up from 6% to 11%. It's a higher WRC plus. He's stealing even more bases on a per game basis than he was in single A. And even just the overall, the contact rate is up 2.5% at high A compared to single A. The swing rate's down 4%, right? So he's being a little bit more patient than he was at the beginning of the season. And it's just overall been even better than it already was for a guy that we already knew had a ceiling that was sky high. And now he's just showing even more consistency and adapting to that next level still at 19 years old, right? Like there's other guys on this list who are those teenage prospects that we've ranked really highly in the past. And you've had, Leo DeVries and Zaire Hope and Jesus Mate and these other guys in that top tier of prospects. And right now you look at Griffin and you really just can't put him behind those guys
No.
because the numbers are so good and they keep getting better.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is like you see the strengths and weaknesses in the youth a little bit more with those aforementioned guys who are still potential
Yeah.
stars, but Griffin is just already looking like a complete ball player this quickly, which is it's just ridiculous. And when you look at the damage against secondary stuff like that, how quickly that's come along, this guy's different. And that's why he's number 2 for us on the top 100.
Yeah, definitely. So beyond Griffin and Misiorowski, because obviously those two are incredible, it's funny that the next name and the first name on the actual Big Risers list is the fourth ranked prospect because these top the 2 through 4 guys have really just been incredibly impressive the past 2 months, and that's JJ Wetherholt, and we've talked about him a lot. But JJ Wetherholt, the first player to jump over 20 spots, he goes from 27 2 months ago now to 4, and I think that 27 ranking was also just kind of you needed to see it a little bit longer from him, just because he was coming off, the injury stuff out of college last year and whatnot. And now it's just like you look at what JJ Weatherholt has done the past 2 months, and he's been on our heat sheet and everything, and it's next level stuff. And it's next level stuff from a guy who has also shown that he can be a legit shortstop. And whether or not the Cardinals play him there because of their situation with Mason Wynn, like it's a legit shortstop profile who is mashing in double and now in triple A, and it's been, in his first couple weeks in triple A has completely carried over all the success and added more impact to it.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where like he's shortstop wise, like it's good enough, but generally there's going to be somebody better if he's on a half decent team that just better defensively because it's
Yeah.
such a valuable position. I think that's kind of where you're going to see, Weatherholt wind up is, yeah, he can get by there and he can be fine, but you're going to have somebody that's probably a little bit more impactful. So if he moves over to second, you're going to get, I think, well above average defense there. But it really is all about the bat. And we got a really good question in the Discord, which was like, what made you side with Wetherholt over a Leo DeVries and a Jesus Mate? And honestly, I think it just boils down to something this simple. If Leo DeVries or Jesus Mate were producing the way that JJ Weatherholt has produced in the upper levels in the next, it wouldn't be next year, right? So it'd probably be in the next 2 years. I think maybe DeVries, it could be next year. You'd be thrilled. Obviously, they'd be younger at that point, but you'd be thrilled with that outcome. I think the idea that they could produce north of a 950 OPS would be pretty crazy. I think by the time they're 22 years old, you could dream on a little bit more impact and a little bit more ceiling, things like that. But Weatherhold's got 12 homers, man. He's air pulling way more than I think anybody would have expected, but he's leaving the yard to all fields. He's walking as much as he's striking out. The swing decisions are elite, absolutely elite. And again, the field of hits always been there. And then you think about the defensive side of things. Made's a liability to move off of shortstop. He's got plenty of time and he can be good, but I think there's some risk there. And even Leo DeVries, even though I think he's got the tools and he can stick there, I don't think anybody's projecting him to be this plus shortstop. So you're hoping that those guys continue to come along, and I think they will. And I think, again, I think the ceiling can be higher, but you'd be thrilled with an offensive outcome that looks like JJ Weatherholt. Weatherholt's doing it now. So I think that was a big part of it is the proximity and the way that pretty much the more he's climbed, the better he's gotten. His last 20 games,
Yeah.
his OPS is north of 1,000. I mean, actually, his last 50 games, his OPS is north of 1,000. And when you're doing that while walking as much as you strike out, and it seems like he's getting more and more and more comfortable with elevating, he may not flash the top end EVs that a peak DeVries or Made may flash, but he will flash the 95 plus, I think, as much as anybody. And you've got a 50% hard hit rate there. So he's going to get to the higher end for him exit velocities, and that's all he needs. And a 104 90th and a hard hit rate of 50%, and he's elevating now more than ever. He's going to be really hard to get out.
Yeah, and that's translating to results too, right? Like it's 10 extra base hits in his first 12 AAA games, five of those being homers. After hitting seven homers in AA all season, it's already five home runs in his first 2 weeks in AAA, right? So you're seeing that kind of that elevation and that impact already starting to shine through for him at the AAA level.
I mean, I don't think anybody expected it to be this good in
Yeah.
AAA, and I mean, you just continue to dwindle the sample size to more recent, and it's just better and better and better. And I think after the deadline, it's gonna be hard to justify keeping this guy in AAA much longer. I think we'll probably see him after August 15th or whatever, so that he can still be eligible for Rookie of the Year, PPI, all that good stuff next year, because he's probably going to
Yeah.
be one of the favorites, I think, coming
I
out for
mean,
Rookie of the Year next year.
I'm not sure there's anybody I would even consider taking over him right now. If you look at Rookie of the Year next year in the NL, it's hard to imagine. I mean, maybe a Bubba Chandler potentially, but
But I
um,
mean,
I,
I'd
I
run with Wetherholt any day of the week.
it's gonna be so consistent. It's gonna be so solid, even at the big league level. I think he'll at least be a solid contributor right off the bat, pretty
Yep.
much because of what his profile is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the swing decisions have been so, so, so good that between that and the bat to ball, even if the power isn't there right away, he's going to be
Yeah.
productive.
Yeah, definitely. The next guy up is someone that you said might be one of your favorite prospects in baseball at this point, and you've been on since early in the season. Ranked number 40, kind of coming in the June update, and that was already a lot higher than most places. Carson Benge of the Mets jumps all the way to number 19, breaks into the top 20 here. Tell me why Carson Benge has been the biggest riser in your entire list from the preseason update.
Well, other than the fact that he just hit his fourth home run in
Well,
three
yeah,
games at Double A, I mean, he's doing everything you wanted to see, right? And like when you have like this hypothesis on a player and you have this positive outcome that you're looking forward to and projecting, and then it kind of goes exactly as you hoped, and then some, it makes it a lot easier to feel emboldened and where you can stack him up here. And the reality was, as I'm going through this process, I'm like, right when I got to the 18, 19 range, I'm like, I'm not taking this player over Carson Bench. Like I couldn't get to a 20th player I'd take over him. And that was before this heater over the last 3 games or so where it's been on a different level. Since he's got to Double A, it's an OPS over 1100. The one thing that people were kind of concerned about was the swing path, right? Like, is it a little bit flatter? And pretty much over the last 2 months or so, you've seen that totally shift. I mean, the last 40 games, it's a 38% ground ball rate. The EVs are continuing to creep up. The bat to ball has always been there, but he still goes backside with the best of them. And that's what stood out to me when I saw him, live in spring training and just on the backfields is when he kind of misses a ball and catches it deep, he has the bat speed and just the spin orientation where it's just going to keep going and going and going and carrying out to the backside. But now you're seeing him cover these pitches up and in that would previously tie him up, and he's pulling them out in the air. You're just, I don't know how you get this guy out right now. You pair that with good swing decisions and a patient approach and damage against all pitch types for the most part. And I just think he's a really, really well rounded player. On top of that, looks like he can potentially stick in center or play a plus corner. And he's only going to get stronger. I keep making this point. It's the Alec Burleson thing where two-way player, couldn't do too much of the upper body, had to be careful because he was a legitimate pitching prospect and was used plenty as a pitcher at Oklahoma State. Now he's just focusing on hitting, and he still hasn't fully added, I think, all the strength that he can in his frame. As that comes along a little bit more too, I mean, if the power's close to plus, and I think it's already starting to look above average, you're looking at above average to plus tools across the board.
Yeah, it's a really well-rounded offensive profile when you think about it, and when you just look at what he's done and what he continues to get better at. I mean, it's yeah, 7 homers in his first 23 Double-A games are already compared to 4 homers in High A throughout the first 60 games there. It's really good impact every kind of facet of the game, and he's walking more than he's striking out, man, at the Double-A level upon getting to upon the promotion to the next level for a guy that's in his first full professional season too.
I mean, that's the other part. It's his first full professional season. It's again, I think the first year where we're really seeing him not pitch, and
Right.
I'm thinking about more strength, another full off season of really just focusing on hitting and what that's going to look like. But you're seeing him get stronger as the years progressed, and at 22 years old, already mashing his way through Double A. We're talking about rookie of the year candidates. Maybe this could be a guy that could give Weatherholt a little bit of a run for
Mm.
his money. Because the other thing that stands out to me is he's gotten better and better left on left. And if that is an area in his game where he's consistent last 30 games, he's hitting 326 left on left with a 924 OPS. Like, I mean, this is an everyday center fielder with above average tools across the board. I think he can be that 55s across the board guy. And it's just like,
And
holy crap. And now with the angles that he's hitting the ball at, you can dream on 20 to 25 homers.
And we keep hearing about how the Mets would like to add in center field potentially, and I've heard, Luis Robert rumors and other Harrison Bader and other names, but it's like
Those are
it
rentals.
makes sense that right, it makes sense then for the Mets to only add a rental because you've got this guy ready to go, and that could be the piece of their outfield that they can kind of just place in there next year and be like, hey, this is the last piece of our outfield for the next 5 years.
100%.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with Carson Benge. He's been absurd lately, but it's not just lately. It's everything he's done that has brought him from, I believe he was at the very back of the top 100 in the preseason. I think he was like 99 or something like that,
Yeah, and I think we're the only
and
ones
ends
that
up at
even have him on.
19,
I think we're the only ones that even have him on the list then.
which is
I don't
crazy.
I don't think he was on any lists.
No, I definitely don't think he was at the beginning of the season. Even when he was at 40 2 months ago, I still think that was way higher than anybody else had him. And now he's at 19, and I think that it's, a justifiable biggest riser for sure.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break before we get into the rest of these biggest risers.
Before we get back to things, I want to tell you about our friends at Lids. We had a really fun time at our Lids store, my local Lids store, about 10 minutes away. We did a little meet and greet. Griffin Konnor joined us, and we were ripping Topps Chrome, which is the coolest part now. You can go to a Lids and get Topps Chrome products. And it's funny because so much of my life I've been trying to jump into Targets in rural areas or go wherever I can to try to find retail and find hobby boxes that are usually going to be sold out. And then you go to the card shops, it's going to be a little bit more money. And, usually I'll still pay it anyways. But now you can just go to your local Lids. There's 1,000 locations around the country and pick up. You got Topps Chrome blaster boxes. You got hobby boxes. I think they're gonna have the value like mega boxes out soon in the next week. I think those drop, but it is so much easier for me. And then on top of that, if you go there and you use the code JB Lids, you get a free Access Pass premium membership for an entire year with the purchase of a Topps Chrome hobby box or blaster box, which that gets you 20% off headwear, which I just used. Also, we got a custom Just Baseball logo stitched in there to a Marlins hat that we're going to give away. You get 10% off apparel, 10% off novelty, access to product giveaways, exclusive experiences, and early access to product drops. I know they gave away like a meet and greet during All-Star Week with Ronald Acuna Jr., and that was like a 3 Access Pass premium members were able to meet Ronald Acuna. So all you have to do is just buy a blaster box and you get a free full year membership here to get those discounts and potentially, get those premium membership opportunities and all of those discounts. So it's JB Lids. You just got to go there and use the code JB Lids with that purchase, and you will be able to activate that. I just bought a blaster box today, and I was able to pull this short print Ellie De La Cruz, which I was shocked because I was like, we opened like 3 hobby boxes and I did not see one of these types. I thought it was an insert at first. It's like, I didn't see a Hobby Masters card. So I immediately looked it up. $300 card. So I was pumped on that. I just went in there to get the hat stitched and I got 20% off because I was already signed up with JB Lids. And out of a blaster box, I got a nice little pull there.
Definitely check out Lids. I think that's the move is to get some Topps Chrome and see what else you can chase because that card is sick, and I think there's plenty of other cool cards that you can get in the Topps Chrome packs available at Lids.
Yep. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Next up is Miami Marlins, and a guy who jumped from 50 to 25, and that's Thomas White coming off of a ridiculous outing this past week in Double A. Thomas White looks like he just kind of is just continuing to dominate a little bit more and more. We've always known he has that kind of ability to just absolutely shove in any given outing, and lately you're really seeing it shine through, and that makes him jump from that middle tier up into this top quarter of the top 100 list.
I mean, 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks. 14 Ks last time out is outrageous. But it's just the pitch mix. And when you watch how loose and electric the arm is, fastball is averaging 96. Opponents have a sub 600 OPS against it. Then you go to the curveball, which he is really dialed in this year. Opponents are hitting 085 against. This is an order of usage too. Opponents are hitting 085 against it. Then you go to the changeup. Opponents are hitting 180 against it. Then you go to the slider, which he averaged this year, and that pitch has not yielded as good of results when you look at like the cumulative numbers. He mixes it in about 12% of the time, but the underlying is so much better. So while opponents are hitting around 300 against, and this is the fourth most used pitch, he just added it this year. He has a 24% swinging strike rate on it and a 33% in zone whiff rate. So the underlying shows this can be a really good fourth pitch. He's just missing middle and missing up too much with it. So that's his fourth pitch, though. He doesn't even need it. Like they added that as a bridge pitch for him at 86. So if that pitch comes along a little bit more from an execution perspective, you have a four pitch mix here that is disgusting. But the fastball's plus, and there's deception built in there with the way he hides the ball in the long arm angle. And then the curveball's comfortably plus. The changeup might be his best pitch, and he has a legit feel for it. And then you're mixing in the slider that has potential. I mean, he's still 20 years old. I think he has as much upside as just about any pitching prospect in minor league baseball at this point, especially when you consider what he can do from the left side.
Yeah, he's shown everything he needs to kind of be in this upper tier of pitching prospects, and he's still a tick behind that top tier of Misiorowski, Burns, and Bubba Chandler. But then beyond that, there's that whole next tier of pitchers, and he's right up there. He's next to Cade Anderson, who was your favorite, both of our favorite pitchers in this recent draft. So what was it for you? I'm curious. Cade Anderson and Thomas White, obviously, so hard to compare these fresh draft guys to a high school pitching product who's developed. Like they're next to each other on the top 100. What is that kind of like?
Yeah, it was funny. This is one of those where I was trying to compare them, and you look at what Cade can do and what he has done. Probably the command's a little bit ahead, but I thought, okay, well, Cade Anderson and Thomas White, they're about the same age. Cade Anderson's a couple months older.
Yeah.
If you dropped Thomas White in the SEC this year, he, he probably goes 1-1 in the draft. Like he probably destroys and dismantles hitters. And the thing with White is I think you could say, okay, well, the command's a little bit ahead with Cade Anderson, but Anderson's dealing with a little bit of a bigger zone, hitters that aren't as disciplined, the whole 9 yards. But you've got a fastball that is probably lesser. You have a slider that is ahead of White's slider, but behind White's curveball, and a changeup that I think is probably a wash or maybe skews a
Yeah.
little bit towards, I think Thomas White. And then you have the fact that White's a few months younger and already doing this in double A. If Cade Anderson jumps right out and starts shoving in double A, I think then it becomes, you got to watch both these guys and try to project how it translates. But given what White already has stuff wise, and I think the command getting a little bit better, as long as you believe that, and I do, that Thomas White can get to average command, I think that's really the only thing that Cade Anderson has over him. And we're talking about almost a 3-tick gap in velocity here between Thomas White and Cade
Yeah.
Anderson from the fastball perspective. And I think there's a little bit more built-in deception too. But again, I could understand the floor with the strike throwing ability of Cade Anderson, resulting in people having more of a preference, which is why, they were right next to each other.
Yeah, they were back to back for understandable reasons. And Thomas White rocking a nearly 40% strikeout rate this year. It's 86 strikeouts in 55 innings is just shown between the two levels is just how dominant he can be. And the command is, like you said, it still needs a tick up, but it's not an unlivable point. He's around just below a 12% walk rate right now. And yeah, you want that to get to 10 or below probably, but like
Yeah.
he could live with the amount of dominance and the stuff he has at that point. And if it comes down to 9 or 10, then it's an even better profile for a guy who already is showing the ability to be an elite pitching prospect.
You want to know something that's really weird? Thomas White and Cade Anderson both, Thomas White at this present moment and Cade Anderson from the regular season both had a 37.4% strikeout rate to the decimal.
That's crazy. The
But
exact same.
bizarre. But also White has allowed 1 home run this year and 7 extra base hits in 14 starts.
Crazy. Nobody's hitting him. I mean, it's really just if he throws strikes, nobody's hitting him. Yeah.
That's all. 180, 84 batting average, 520 OPS, and an ISO of .046. It's a slug of 230. I mean, nobody's
Crazy.
barreling this dude. He's given up 1 home run, and it was to Austin Hendrick. 345 feet hugged the foul pole.
Good old
Uh,
Austin Hendrick. He got that card he can cash
oh
in.
yeah,
So,
I have the redemption. I gotta cash that in.
Speaking of another pitcher who, another high school draft pick who has risen up the board significantly, going from 67 to 40 in this top 100 is Ryan Sloan of the Mariners. And Ryan Sloan's a guy that I saw pitch for the first time when he was a freshman in high school in the Illinois high school circuits. And I thought at the time, man, this guy could be really good. And he was already really good coming into the draft, and you've been a fan of him since the draft, and he's just only continued to get better since then.
Yeah, he had a little rough patch of like 3 consecutive outings with 4 earned, and then since
Yeah,
then, he over his last 6 outings, and they've managed his innings a little bit as they should. He's a 19-year-old righty with
yeah,
the sky is the limit, but 25 innings, a 0.72 ERA, and this is what really stands out to me: 26 strikeouts, 4 walks. It's a
yeah.
29% strikeout rate and a 4% walk rate, blended with a 56% ground ball rate for Modesto. And he's just scraping the surface. Like I don't know what he looked like when you saw him in high school, but he's a physical dude. He's
Oh
6'5", 220 now. I doubt he was that then, but he's
yeah,
probably like
definitely not then. Yeah,
but and he's added more strength. And what I love is you've got the fastball shape could be a little bit better, but he's averaging 95.5. And you know there's going to be more in there as he just matures. Then you have this sweeper that looks like a plus pitch. By the way, opponents are OPSing 345 against it.
Oof.
And then this splitter has really stood out as a pitcher I didn't think would be there for him like it has been this year. He's only thrown it about 10% of the time, but man, does it look good when he's thrown it. And then he's mixed in this upper 80s cutter, which I love as a bridge between the sweeper and the fastball. And I hope he throws that pitch more. He only mixes that in about 10% of the time, too. And opponents are getting bludgeoned by it. It's a 75% strike rate. He commands the heck out of it and huge whiff numbers on it with a 174 opponent batting average. So you have a legitimate 4 pitch mix here from a 19-year-old who's probably only going to see his stuff get better, and he's only walking 5% of batters. This guy
That's
looks
the
like,
craziest
and
part
he's in
with
the right
him.
org. He looks like he could be a frontline dude.
Yeah, that's the craziest part with Sloan, I think, is the fact that he's a 6'5" righty. He's still growing into his body. He's mixed in a new pitch, and he's still only walking 5% of hitters. I think that's the part that's really nuts about his profile is that you've got this exciting, tantalizing stuff from such a big frame, and the command hasn't, backed up at all for him in his first professional season. So the Mariners are gonna, they're gonna make it work with him. They're gonna take their time with him too. He's still in single A now. He could easily be in high A from an ability standpoint, but I think with him just managing the innings, taking it easy, continuing to kind of refine that 4 pitch mix is the priority. And then next season you can really work on that ramp up from there.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm really interested. Like, I think there's that Logan Gilbert type of template where like,
Mm,
and I don't want to put that on him, but I think there's a reason why the Mariners gravitated towards him, right? And
yeah.
it's just a great just template to be able to work with.
Yeah, and they gave him, borderline first round money. I think it was a $3 million signing bonus in the mid second round. So that was kind of back of the first type of money for him, and there's a reason why. It definitely makes sense. So he's going to continue to rise. The next two guys are two guys that we have talked about a lot, so we don't have to go super deep into them. But Owen Caissie makes a huge jump here from 74 to 41, and like you really could just look at the production numbers and what he's done this season in AAA and understand why he made this 30 plus spot jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything that we've been long wanting to see, and
Yeah.
it just feels like it's the final piece, right? Like it's the
Yeah.
final step of the evolution. Because there was a little bit more whiff over the last year and a half than you wanted to see, and yeah, it comes with the territory. And he told us, I mean, just sitting down with him last year, so AAA has been the biggest adjustment for me, and I get it. Like these guys are all of big league time. They see a big young. He was one of the younger players at the level. He's still only 23, he just turned 23. And last year he had just turned 22 when he got up there, and they can pick you apart a little bit. They find that weakness from the 6'4", 220-pound left-handed youngster, one of the younger guys at AAA.
Yeah.
Now he's adjusted back, and look at the last 40 games. The chase rate's at like 20%. The in zone contact rate's at 84%, and he's getting his A plus swing off like he was at high A and double A. And those 40 games, he got 320, 412, 673 OPS, 13 homers in 40 games. I see comfort when you're getting your best swing off more. And Owen Caissie, he's going to punch. I'm okay with that. You got to be getting your best swings off, though, when you are striking out. And he's cut the strikeout rate down, but he's also just getting his best swings off more consistently. And I think at this point, yeah, he's probably the top trade chip potentially available.
Yeah.
But he's playing so well that I can understand Cubs fans not wanting him to go and the Cubs not wanting him to be moved either. What stands out the most to me is how he's handled four seamers too over the last 40 games. 350 batting average with an 11, or that's just fastballs in general, 1156 OPS against four seamers, 395 batting average with a 1309. OPS. So he's ready for velo. He's hammering velo, and he's still been solid against secondaries. Same span, 1200 OPS against sliders, and he's recognizing spin and laying off of it as well as he ever has. So it seems like it's the final part of the evolution for Owen Caissie, who is going to play a fine corner too.
Yeah, he definitely has taken that next step. Talking about a guy who's taken the next step, and someone we have also talked about plenty, going from 69th to 47th in this top 100 is Jonah Tong of the Mets organization, and our second Met we're going to talk about, and the Mets are crushing it on many fronts on the development side of things. Jonah Tong, I actually thought he might rise even more, so I'm going to flip it on you. Instead of asking exactly why he rose, why is he 47? When purely on numbers, you could make a
Oh,
case he could be in that way upper tier of pitchers in that 20s range.
oh my God. Yeah. I mean, on numbers, you could say
Yeah,
he's the best pitching prospect in baseball, right?
right.
I mean, like
Exactly.
it's crazy. I feel like every time we check in, I mean, his last 15 outings, he's got, I'll remove the futures game. His last 15, 14 outings, he's got a 119 and a 141 FIP and a 41% strikeout
A
rate and a
million
9.5%
strikeouts.
walk
Yeah.
rate. Like it's just stupid. But the one thing that I'm just interested in here with him is, how much can he manage to dominate at this level with ultimately a pretty heavy fastball changeup usage, right? Like we're looking at roughly 56% fastball usage and 26% changeup usage. Those two pitches, I think, are the most dominant tandem of pitches in Major League Baseball or minor league baseball right now. But at the same time, it's he doesn't have anything else he can mix in right now with much confidence. The curveball is at about a 50% strike rate, and he's mixing
Yeah.
that in about 7% of the time. The slider's at a 42% strike rate, and he's mixing that in about 7% of the time. So maybe he can just be so dominant with that verti fastball. And I mean, the changeup fastball combination in the tunnel, it's just a nightmare. And you combine those two pitches, I mean, opponents are hitting 147 against the two of them. But you get to the major leagues, it's two pitches. No matter how dominant those two pitches are, it becomes a little bit more difficult, to do that. I would just like to see a third pitch that's a little bit more reliable.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be good. Just be okay. If he could land that spin a little bit more, I'd have some more confidence in him. Just in terms of reaching that ceiling. But it's clear that these two pitches are going to work for him one way or another. And
Yeah.
he could probably still be a really good starter with the two pitches.
And I forced you to play devil's advocate a bit there, but I think that illustrates just how impressive it is that he is 47 because it's primarily two pitches, right? For a guy of this age and this experience level to be all the way up in that top 50 prospects range with only two truly consistent pitches at this point shows just how good he's been and how good those two pitches have been. It's an amazing two pitch mix, and there's a reason why he's still a top 50 prospect despite not having necessarily a reliable breaker yet at this point in his career.
Yeah, which is funny because his calling card when he first came up was the curveball, and it just
Yeah,
just hasn't totally been there. So I have the optimism that it can be though. But it's funny too. It's not like he's Greg Maddux. He's walking 12% of batters with just the two
right.
pitches. And I think the big reason why he is walking those guys is he's starting to try to mix those pitches in more. But I mean, this is one where I could just ultimately be too low because the ceiling is so
Yeah.
high. So I think just a little bit of the combination of the command. I see him sometimes struggle to repeat the delivery, though that's gotten way better of late as well. Uh, I'm just fascinated to see how the third pitch comes along, and he's in the right org for that to come along.
Exactly. How many homers do you think Jonah Tong's given up this year? Do you know?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's a small number. I would guess it's like three.
Yeah, it's two. Yeah, ridiculous. It's silly what he's done this season and understandable why he's made this big jump into the top 50
As a
range.
verti fastball guy, to only
Yeah,
have given up
exactly.
two homers is nuts.
It's crazy what he's been doing this season. So definitely a justified jump into that top 50. Next up is someone who we also have discussed a good amount. The password in the Boston organization, Jhostynxon Garcia, jumps from 83 to 53 into that kind of around that middle range of the top 100. Obviously, you liked him. I think you were one of the first people to have him on the top 100 a couple months ago. What brought him into, from that back end top 100 to that really truly middle of the top 100 level guy?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit a couple episodes ago, or maybe it was a handful now, but I really did have some concern that once he got to AAA, the approach would do him in a little bit, just in a growing pains way. Like he was super
Yeah.
aggressive, really liked to sell out for the air pull when I watched him, and then I think gets to Double A, knew that he was going to need to be a little bit more dialed in, but you still saw him capitalizing on mistakes, still pretty aggressive. And once they sent him up to Triple A, I'm like, man, this might be a challenge for him because as we talked about, the Triple A arms are going to exploit that a little bit more. And he calmed it down. He started using the field a whole lot more. And he's still a little bit aggressive, but I think in a much more controlled way. And then on top of that, you have a guy that is coming along in center field. And so I'm like, okay, he's coming along in center field. I was a little bit skeptical about that. I thought he might be a bit too clunky. He's moving really well out there. The first step's gotten better. The routes have cleaned up. So he looks like he can stick in center now. And the aggression isn't doing him in. That combination for me, like the raw power was never a question. The bat to ball was always good enough. Even if the hit tool was going to be average at best, like you just knew he was going to be able to get into that from what you saw. I was concerned about the approach and the ability to stick in center. And both of those things have come along, especially the latter. So I think the fact that he can stick in center makes me really encouraged. And I'm curious if the Red Sox move him. I think for Marlins fans, I think they should love the idea of that, of him coming over.
Yeah.
But I can understand the Red Sox having some hesitance, even though there's not really any immediate room for him.
Yeah, that would be one of the better prospects potentially move at the deadline, if not the best possibly, if he were to be in a large trade package here. And we know the Red Sox have a lot of outfield depth, so definitely something they could be considering if they want to try to capitalize on making a real push this season.
Yeah, I'd say what him, Owen Caissie, like
Yeah, I don't think there's anything better than either of those two, and at least on the offensive side.
I don't think anybody else of that significance is going to get
Yeah.
moved.
I think those are the two best, and Ballesteros would probably be in that group as well
Yeah,
potentially. But I think those three, the Cubs hitters, and then Garcia would probably be among the best hitters at least that could be moved in terms of prospects here in the next day or two.
no, I agree.
Last guy on the biggest risers is Trey Yesavage of the Blue Jays organization, and he jumps from 91 to 71, and I do think he can rise even higher. Has got dinged around a little bit. He's been through three levels now, so he kind of flew through single A and high A and is now in double A. Had a couple really shaky starts here in double A, but then after a little bit of an extended break after the Futures game and everything, he got like a full 2 weeks off. I think his body was just getting right a little bit and just kind of taking their time with him. He comes back after a 2 week break and had a 4 inning no hit 5 strikeout game this past week. So definitely looks like he's going to get back on track here and could really continue to take another step in the second half.
Yeah, this is just like pure production, right? I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about a guy that just continues to shove, but also I think there was some concern about how that like super over the top fastball was going to
Yeah.
play, even though he gets great carry, and I think it's clear that it plays well, even though it's a super high release. Opponents rating 215 against that. And then there were some medical concerns, and I think the fact that they've been a little bit careful now in the back half, but the fact that he has looked the part and thrown still plenty this year, I think has also been encouraging. And that it's just a three pitch mix, man. Like he's throwing a ton of strikes with three well above average to potentially plus pitches. The splitter from that release point is ridiculous, and then you've got the slider as well. He works so well vertically. I think he's not going to have issues platoon wise. And I mean, lefties are hitting 116 against him. Righties are hitting 181. And I think
Yeah.
because he works so well vertically, you're going to have a hard time. I think no matter what side of the plate you're facing him from, and I think that's a really effective component to what's going to make him a guy that can go through lineups and who can consistently be effective. And I know the walk rate's a little bit high, but when I look at the strike rate by pitches, I think that the command's ultimately going to be where you want to see it too, and the track record's there.
Yeah, I mean he's done it. He's a college guy, pretty established, right? So I think someone that we expected to be in the top 100 this year if things went well for him coming out of the draft, and now he's just further cementing himself up that list into that beyond just the very back of it into the true middle tier.
100%. And I think when you look at the Blue Jays, we're gonna talk about some newcomers too, but you talk about the Blue Jays, like all of a sudden, where it was
Yeah,
where pitchers went to die, and now there's a pitching renaissance going on in the
for
Blue Jays
sure.
system.
Yeah, 100%. Let's take one more quick break to hear about our friends at Loop before we finish out this episode.
Yeah, we got something fun coming up. I've been teasing it for a little while now, but it's
Yeah.
actually live, and the link is in the episode description if you want to get in on it. But we're going to be doing a break at the National, two of them actually, and I'm going to be doing it with our friends at Hit Seekers, who you can find on the Loop app. But we're going to be doing a live stream with them. One of them is 2024 Bowman Draft. That's the one that we got rocking right now, and that class is loaded, by the way.
Have
Carson
you
Benge
looked
is
at
in
that
that class.
checklist?
Cam Smith, Jack Caglione, goes on and on. And you can get into this break with the link in the episode description. I'll be just talking prospects. We'll be breaking it down. I'm definitely going to buy a spot in there as well. And the best part is, if you download the Loop app and you use our promo code JBaseball, you will get $10 in credit on your first purchase over $50. So it will be over $50 getting the break. So you get that $10 in credit towards that break, or to tack on, in something else later on. But what I'm so excited about is I think this will get people the opportunity to check out the Loop app, where you can really trust that what you see is what you get. Not just if I'm on a stream with our friends at Hit Seekers, where that's going to be the case, but if you canvas through all the other sellers on there, they're all vetted, either brick and mortar card shops or high volume breakers who have a ton of respect and I think just rapport in the industry with their audience. And that's the other side of it that's really fun too, is you have a connection there with the people that are breaking. Again, I don't need to be on there. There's a lot of other really cool people. I'm excited to be on there, and I hope you guys jump in this break. But even when I'm not, a lot of the breakers are a ton of fun. That's why I'm doing this with Hit Seekers. Like, those guys there are so much fun. I've hopped in the breaks. I talk ball with them. I talk about which cards I'm chasing. I ask them some questions about product. What should I be looking for in this product? If I have this team in a break, what should I be looking for? They're super fun to talk to, super informative. The chat component is a really fun social aspect to the whole thing. Whether you're talking to other collectors and people in there, or just sports fans in general, or the breakers themselves, that side of it's been really fun. And again, we're doing that live break from the National that you can check out with the link in the episode description. Go to loop.cards/JBaseball. That's LOUPE.cards/JBaseball to download the Loop app, and then go check out that Hit Seekers break. That link is also in there as well.
As we talk about, these big risers, we get into all that. We kind of just, it's walk through who's rising up the most. That sparks the thought in my head of like which teams have the most impact players on this top 100 and which teams have really taken that step forward. So wanted to briefly kind of just talk through the team list of who has the most prospects in the top 100, which systems are really thriving. So we'll just go through kind of these teams that check the most players on the top 100 list and how that kind of goes into just like which teams have the most deep farm systems of talent right now. And we got to start that off with the team that, back-to-back top 100 updates has had the most top 100 prospects on your list, and that's the Seattle Mariners. We just talked about Ryan Sloan earlier in this episode, and the Mariners are the only team in this update to have 7 players on the top 100. Where do you see this Mariners system at as a whole? I think it's one of the better in baseball. Maybe they cash in on it a little bit here in the next day or two at the deadline.
I think they should, because I mean the way they draft is just remarkable, and I think when we do our like farm system rankings, which I finish the last couple farm systems that are going to be towards the bottom of the rankings, anyways. But when we finish that, like you're going to see that it's not just the volume, it's the quality too. Like it wasn't just the amount of top 100 guys where Michael Arroyo got on there. And I know Mariners fans are like, finally, but I couldn't deny the production anymore. But Colt Emerson's a top 5 prospect in baseball now, right? Like Harry Ford is back into not only just being a top 60, 75 prospect, but also he's so high floor and he's high probability big leaguer. Felony and Celestin fell off the top 100 list, but he's still a really good prospect, right? Johnny Farmelo has this super exciting ceiling. But again, when you go beyond the top 100, Tyler Locklear made some swing adjustments and is destroying. Yeah. And I think they just brought him up. You look at some of the arms. Durangelo Stange didn't make the top 100. He's just missed. Like, there's a lot of guys that are really interesting. You can even go deeper. Like Hunter Cranton's 24 years old, but his stuff is nasty when he's healthy. Like, they have all these other arms too that are so fascinating. So I think when you look at the top end talent, they've got it, but then they've also got the depth as well that I think makes them really fascinating.
Yeah, I think the system has to be one of the better ones in baseball, and I think that they should capitalize. I think the Mariners are in a spot. They've already added Josh Naylor. If they were to really push a little bit and add another, 1 or 2 more bats to that lineup, you're looking at a team that can make a run in a pretty wide open American League at this point. Which of these top 100 prospects do you think there's any world where at least 1 or 2 could be traded? I assume it'd probably be either Harry Ford or Michael Arroyo. I don't see them trading any of those top 4 or 5.
Yeah, I don't think Farmelo goes anywhere. Obviously, Emerson's not going anywhere. I personally, I know that he's got a cult following, man. I got
He
ripped
really
after a radio
does.
spot. But Laz Montes, like, I get it. The power upside is so immense. I'm always going to be okay with moving the DH types for control, not a rental. But if you're getting a controllable
Yeah.
piece, if that's out there, I'd be a little bit more open to it. I wouldn't move him for Suarez even. Like, I think that's where you maybe draw the line. But I do think that like the Ty Pete's of the world, those guys seem a lot more potentially movable. Harry Ford seems just like the most likely player to move, right? His value's probably as high as it's been since he first burst onto the scene. He's big league ready. You don't really have the spot for him. Maybe you want to get some more days off for Cal Raleigh, given how prolific he is offensively. So maybe that's something they see long term. But if you have an ability to get a controllable piece, I could understand that. But with the way Arroyo is now swinging it in Double A, it's becoming harder to move him too. I think so.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to move one or two, it's probably going to be Arroyo or Ford. But I'm interested to see what they do, and I think they should. But Locklear even looks like a decent trade chip now all of a sudden with the way he's swinging it.
Yeah, I think that the system is deep. It's top end. It's just in general a very good organization right now, who's also in a competitive race right now. And it's crazy to see that, I think that the three teams with the most top 100 prospects are all legitimately trying to contend this year too, which just shows a level of organizational prowess when you're a competitive team and you have a very deep system and you're developing guys in a great way. And that leads into two teams that are, that have six prospects in the top 100. The only two teams that have six top 100 prospects beyond the Mariners are the Brewers and the Mets, two, former and current David Stearns organizations, and those two organizations are developing with the best of them right now. It's hard to deny that those two are not two of the best development systems in baseball.
I mean, what the Mets are doing right now is crazy, and I think what the Brewers consistently do is the standard. Like I think they've
Yeah.
overtaken the Rays as that gold standard, and it's not even just the Made Pena duo. You've got guys like a Logan Henderson. Like he's older, he's 23 compared to some of these other guys, but he's a top 100 guy now because he shoved in triple and then shoved in the show, and now is back and forth because they don't have room for everybody. Like that's a guy that now is turned into a legitimate asset. Braylon Payne, when healthy, I know he just hit the IL, has looked really, really good. And I think he's someone that just missed the top 100. Jefferson Caro being healthy is great because that's a guy that I think is the best. When healthy, was arguably the best catching prospect in baseball. You've got Cooper Pratt. And then even guys that I think have tons of upside and are exciting. They've been able to get a Brock Wilken right this year, and he's been pretty darn good. When I mean, you look at what he's done, a 942 OPS in Double A after what was a really rough season last year. Like they are so good with the swing mechanics and getting guys optimized in that regard. Josh Adamczewski, he's been hurt, but the guy was in 344 with a 961 OPS in Low A. Like they have so many other pieces. I like Blake Burke a lot. I like Mike Bovey's bat. Like they're just loaded, and I just don't think it's ever going to stop. So that's always a system that's going to be a force. And remember, like Tyler Black fell off the top 100 with his injuries, and I just think the inability to stay available. Luke Adams was a former top 100 guy who's not on it right now, but in Double A as a 21-year-old has a 900 OPS. Like there's so many players in this system.
Yeah, it's the only system, with three top 15 guys, and then you talk about the depth, and then it's really hard to put a single farm system above them. And I'm curious where they come out in our farm system rankings, but I have a feeling it's definitely no lower than two, if not just one, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, unless you or Jack pushes me away from that, I've been saying this is the
Yeah,
best system in baseball for a while. And like, I didn't even talk about like Marco Dinges, like who could probably be a top
right.
100 guy too. He's hurt right now, but look at what that catcher has been doing in Low A and High A, and the EVs are stupid. So I mean, yeah, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better system.
Yeah, so a few quick things here too, just looking at the kind of the next tier of systems. So you've got Mariners, Brewers, and Mets at the very top, and then you have a jumble of teams here, all with five top 100 guys, and that's the Reds, the White Sox, the Guardians, the Tigers, the Dodgers, and then the Blue Jays, who we talked about have organizationally gone really well. Anybody from those six kind of stand out to you? Because that's kind of that next tier of five top 100 guys beyond those initial three.
I mean, to the Blue Jays, I think have been as quick of a
Yeah.
resurgence, or I would just say surgence of like the farm system in general. Like you have, I mean, they were at a point. Do you remember when you put together the graphic of like it was top 100 prospects by team, and the Blue Jays
They
had
had
none, right?
zero. It was last year's, I think either mid-season or a preseason last year, and people freaked out because there was like no Blue Jays, and now you've got five.
And that's not including Ricky Tiedemann, who was on the list. The
Yep.
only reason why he's not on
Yep.
the list is just he's not pitching right now, and you got like 10 new draft guys and 10 other guys who are playing out of their minds. So he's really a top 100 guy, I think, or darn close. And then they've got a bunch of upper minors guys that are still really good. Like I still think Alan Rodin's a decent piece. I still think
Yeah.
some of the other guys that they have. I think Josh Kasevich is a really solid piece who's just been hurt all year. Like they've got guys. So I think that's the system that stands out the most to me, where it's like you have gone from no top 100 guys to a ton of performers right now, and not even counting Johnny King and some of these other upside pieces. To have two out of this year's draft with Yesavage and Cal Steven, like it's been really impressive what they've done all of a sudden, given where they were at a year, not even a year ago.
Yeah, they're in a pretty good spot organizationally, and another team that's still contending right now, and then they could cash in
Mm-hmm.
on a couple of these big risers too if they want to make a big move. Like you could get a legit piece for a Cal Stefan right now, right? Like a guy that's emerged as a top 100 guy in this list, and then some other guys that are they just traded Jerron Watts Brown for a piece, right, for Sir Anthony Dominguez, and that's a guy who also is an up arrow type of
He took a
pitcher.
leap. Yeah,
Uh,
great point. Like
yeah, who
they're
do you
not trading. They're
think?
not getting a big league reliever for Jerron Watts Brown last year.
No, 100%. Do you think who's in that kind of untouchable tier for Toronto as the deadline comes here? I think obviously they just drafted JoJo Parker, who debuts at 65 on the top 100. Arjun Nimal is still probably off limits. I would think Trey Yesavage is probably the other one that's off limits.
I would think so. I think about it because if they wanted an Edward Cabrera, right? Like the
Right.
Marlins, I'm just thinking like, are they going to do that for someone that's not Arjun Namala, or it's going to be tough. But I wonder with JoJo Parker if in the right move they would
Hmm.
move Namala, who's struggled a little bit over the last couple months. But I still think no, right? The upside is so immense. He's going to play a good shortstop. I think Savage is probably close to untouchable because he's the next guy that's going to be able to
Yeah.
plug into that rotation that's very old overall. Uh, I think Cal is probably that solid trade chip they can dangle, and then Johnny
Yeah.
King, right? Like I think you don't want to
Yeah.
move a player with that upside, but at the end of the day, he's high walk rate, just got to low A, electrifying lefty that teams would love to pick up, who's increased his stock since being drafted, but he's so far off. And if it allows you to hold on to some of the guys that are closer up, I think you could put together something with Cal Stefan and Kasevich and Rodin and some of those
There's
guys to
pieces there
make
to
it
make a
happen.
move for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they could go volume and make it happen, but nothing would shock me. I think they're going to be aggressive. I think they feel like this might be one of their best opportunities to win the East, and I wouldn't make. I don't know if I'd make anybody completely off limits, but I at the same time, I don't know if there's anything out there to that would require you to move Namala with the other pieces that they now have all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think they're in a pretty good spot and they can choose to keep and protect the ones they want to keep. Wrapping real quick, don't want to dunk on teams at all here, but the teams that don't have as much love on the top 100, right? You've got the teams with either, one or no top 100 teams is the Angels, the Giants, the Braves, and the Astros there. For those teams that kind of are still piecing it together, only a max one top 100 guy, is there some guys that just missed for those teams, and is
Yeah.
there kind of some of those just outside prospects that we still really like a lot that just couldn't quite crack the list?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that the Giants and the Braves, I think, are far better systems than the Angels and the Astros. Even though,
Hmm.
like, if you look at it from this logic, it's
Right.
not the case. But there's so many arms. Like Owen Murphy just made his return. He was going to be a top 100 guy before he went down with Tommy John surgery last year
Yep.
for the Braves. I love Murphy, and I mean, it's a Christian Javier type fastball, and then the slider came along so much before going down with Tommy John surgery. You look at the Brave system in general. It's just a million 45 to 45 plus future value arms that I think are
Yeah.
those guys end up making a leap, and then everyone says, "Oh, why are the Braves never have top 100 guys?" But they have these pieces because that's what the Braves do. But Cam Caminiti, I saw some Braves fans like, "What the heck? Why not Caminiti?" I think he has all the talent in the world to be a top 100 prospect. He also
Yeah.
hasn't thrown more than 4 innings in a single start this year, and he started the year with a little bit of an elbow issue. So but talent wise, I mean, he looks awesome. He was a guy that just missed. I think you can go through that system, and there's a lot of really intriguing players. Diego Tornes and at the DSL, crazy bat speed, really advanced swing. I think he could be that next monster for them through the international ranks. So I really like what they have brewing there, despite the fact that there's J.R. Ritchie. He's been phenomenal this year. I think that's another guy that super high floor could be, a top 100 type of guy as well. So they've got so many different options and guys that could probably fit that bill that are just outside. So that system I think is stronger than some of the systems that may have two or three top 100 guys because it dips off so quickly. And it's a similar story with the Giants, but not quite the same amount of depth. Like it dips off pretty quick with them. But at the top, I mean, Bryce Eldridge is one of the best power hitting prospects in baseball. But then Joshua R. Gonzalez, like that guy looks like he could be, another IFA star that really
Yeah.
blossoms at shortstop. But you look at Bo Davidson, he's come along really well. The other guy that I think has been fascinating to watch has been Johnny Level, his bat speed and just what he brings to the table there too. Another lower level guy that is going to take some time, but is flashing some impressive stuff. I've seen Joshua get some top 100 love. He was a guy that was just missed as well. So I would say that system is pretty damn strong as well. The Angels and the Astros, I can't say as much for, unfortunately. But Walker Yannick has played well.
Yeah, there's something to be building off there. So that gives a little bit of an idea of just kind of where the top systems are at, where there's less prospects in the top 100. You and Jack are going to do newcomers later this week. And then we'll definitely get back to the heat sheets, man. We got to get back on a good heat sheet next week. That'll be fun, kind of to have 2 or 3 full weeks post All-Star break to dive into some prospects next week.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe some players that got traded, or
Yeah.
just getting their feet wet the new org. I remember Thomas Sajazi after getting traded became the best player on the planet. So maybe we'll have some examples of that. But yeah, excited to do that. Excited to talk about the newcomers. Check out the links in the episode description. We're also talking prospects in the Discord, talking the top 100. That link is also in the episode description. We look forward to talking prospects with you guys tomorrow.